I read that your great grandfather contributed to the infrastructure that shaped Manhattan. What do you think the lessons your family has passed down, that how you approach real estate today?
Great question. What I learned about real estate from my family was that it was a way of passive investing because my grandfather was a doctor and he made his money obviously as a doctor and he invested in some real estate. And I noticed that he did well. And when he passed on, the real estate was the most valuable
Hmm.
thing left behind. And for my father, he kind of did the same thing. He bought a few investment properties as he was also an engineer and in the car business. So I learned that real estate was a way to kind of, back then they would call it make money when you sleep. Today, everyone
Right.
calls it cash flow. So I learned that. And the values I learned alongside that is, my family is very hardworking people. My grandfather, my father, everybody worked very, very hard. So we didn't believe in necessarily shortcuts or an easy way out. So if you love what you do and you're passionate about it and it's providing, value, there's no problem working
Yeah,
hard and
that's for
putting in
sure.
a lot of hours.
Do you think the real estate industry on itself has remained like constant over the past whatever years since your grandfather was in it, or has it changed significantly? Because fundamentals are the fundamentals, right?
Well, every, everything changes, but ultimately, why it changes is still kind of the same. I mean, the bottom line is we can go back 1,000 years ago, we can go to this morning, and
Hmm.
it's all the same thing. It's cash flow and income. I mean, your profit, your business has to generate revenues and it's got to make income. Other than that, it's just not going to work. So the way every business model worked even 10, 20, 50, 100 years ago versus today, forgetting about all the technology and all the social media and all the different ways of doing business, it's
Hmm.
still the same thing. It's sales and income. And it doesn't matter whether you are a doctor like my grandfather or a real estate investor like what I am. It's always the same thing, sales and
Yeah, that's
income.
true.
Got to make money.
What does the day to day look like for you at this point, having optimized everything, being in the business for decades?
Yeah. For me, my typical day, honestly, on a work day, it's obviously different than a weekend. I don't work 7 days a week. I know a lot of people that are crazy and they like to work 7 days a week. I don't believe in that. I'm 52 years old. I'm not trying to work my life away. But on a typical work weekday, what I'll do is I'll wake up in the morning, I'll read for a little bit, relax a little bit, then get myself ready for work. I generally get to work around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And then, I take care of things like emails and phone calls and all that. The morning is very productive in the office. And then generally, I'll go out in the afternoon. I'll go out by lunchtime and go tour properties, meet with tenants, meet with contractors, vendors, jobs we're reviewing. And then in the afternoon, I come home. Let's say I get home 6:30, 7 o'clock. I like to take a nap and relax a little bit, get to the gym by 7:38, work out, do my thing. And by 9 o'clock, 9:30, it's time for dinner. And by 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, lights out, get
I
ready
like
for
that.
bed.
It ever overwhelms you at this point? Any like major stress from it, or that's in the past?
You know, that's a great question because stress is something that I don't know if the right word is stress or
Hmm.
sometimes pressure. So I relate it to like a basketball player in a championship game. I don't know that that's a stress that you got to score a point or it's pressure because you want to win. So it's not like I have to do something. It's that I want to do it. So I don't view when people think of stress, they think of
Right.
something bad. What I'm doing in real estate business, what I'm doing in life, whether even like we were just talking earlier about running marathons and stuff, these are things I want to do. So some people may say you're putting a lot of pressure and stress on yourself, and I say that's a good pressure. It's pushing you to get better and perform. So I don't really get stressed. I don't have a lot of stress. I just have a lot of pressure, but
Hmm.
I want
Yeah.
the
Can
pressure.
you touch on what you love about it, the real estate game, the business game, entrepreneurship?
Sure. Real estate's one of the greatest things ever, and I kind of stumbled into it because, as a lot of people know, I first started off as a stockbroker
Right.
in the 1990s, and I was doing very well. But every day you were living and dying by a commission, which is a great way to get started as a young guy or girl. But you got to find a way to invest that money before you spend it. So I started investing in properties, and I was very lucky because timing has a lot to do with it. That when I bought my property in 1998, that was the end of a cycle in the early 90s where the market exploded and went down, and I bought a property at a foreclosure that the gentleman owed $1.2 million on a loan, and I got the property for
Hmm.
$575,000. So I got a really good deal going in, but nobody wanted to own real estate then, and I was able to convert it, make it work, so I got hooked. And the reason I love it is because it changed my life. That first property changed my life where I realized that you don't always have to count on a job. You don't always have to count on people. You got to count on yourself. So I started buying more and more properties. And I tell you, I'm more in love with buying more properties and playing the game of Monopoly than I'm in love with the
I see
money.
that. What was stockbroking like selling stocks back in the day?
Mm-hmm. Back in the day, there was a lot of telemarketing. That was before the
Hmm.
no call lists. So, we'd call high net worth people and we're trying to get them to buy stock over the phone. we kind of had to do that because we were young. I was 21, 22, 23. So I felt insecure to go out to a golf course or a tennis club and try and convince someone to invest with me because they'd say, well, you're a young kid. Maybe they would have done it in hindsight. I don't know. But I was doing it all over the phone where your age wasn't as relevant. So you didn't have a social media presence. You had nothing but a phone call. So if you had good advice and you could sell, you get people to buy stock. And we did a lot of trading. And at that point, that was 94, 95, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you look back, that was one of the greatest times for the stock market.
Sure.
That was the dot-com era where everything went straight up. So I utilized that and I made a lot of commissions and bought a lot of real estate to the point that by 2000, when the dot-com bubble burst and there was no more money in stocks, and it was the entry of E-Trades and Ameritrades where people could trade for $20, $15 a trade, that kind of put us out of business. But I was set from real estate, and that's when I totally made the pivot and went 100%
Sure.
into real estate.
Why were you good at it, you think, the selling part? Or was it about you personally?
You know, I'm a very optimistic person and I don't take no for an answer. So if I believe I have something good and you're telling me no, I just believe I haven't convinced you to say yes yet. But if you're a guy who buys stocks, there's absolutely no reason I wouldn't believe you could buy stocks with me. Now, if you weren't a stock buyer, I beating down a bad door, it doesn't make sense. But if you told me you had 3 brokerage accounts, I got to be your 4th. So I would keep working the right people. So I was very aggressive in that
Qualities now
sense.
you possess that you think make you a good entrepreneur?
I would say the same thing, an optimistic personality. I believe that today is a great day and tomorrow could be
Yeah,
even
that's for
better.
sure. Assuming just out of college, no connections. I know you get asked these questions all the time, but I love it. No connections, no particular education in it. Getting started in real estate, is that a smart thing, or you get your business off the ground first, and then you go into real estate?
You know, I love talking to young guys and girls like you because it's a question I had too when I was very young. And the truth is, it's so great to be young and so many things now that I could go back and remember the days when I was your
Right.
age. Because when I was your age, when I was a stockbroker at 21, the ride is really a lot of fun. It's scary because it's unknown and you haven't proven a lot of things yet. But the greatest thing to do is to figure out what it is you want to do, regardless, because someone's going to make widgets and make a lot of money. So it doesn't have to be that. It has to be something you enjoy doing. Because as I said earlier, if you're enjoying it, putting in long, hard hours and studying the craft is fun. You know, like you said, you did the Ironman. A lot of people think you're crazy for doing an Ironman, but getting on the bike and riding hundreds of miles a week and running, 100 miles a week, and like to most people, that's crazy. But if you're enjoying it and it has a purpose, it's fun. So what I tell all young people is find something that you have that kind of passion about and lean into it. For me, if I was wanting to get started in real estate with no connections, with nothing, I'd get my real estate license. I would get into commercial real estate. I'd get into leasing, not sales, because I find with leasing, you'll find out more of what owners are looking for and tenants are looking for, which will ultimately make you a better investor. Selling the property, just kind of a matchmaker. So I'd get into sale. I get into leasing. I'd work hard to make as much money as I can, and I'd start
That's the
investing
way
in
to do it.
properties.
Interesting. Think you That's the
That's
right
the
way to
right
do
way to
it.
do it.
Think you, looking back, you wish you've developed earlier on in let's say you're in your 20s, that would have served you in your career. Things you, I don't know, let's say accounting, for example, public speaking, whatever, things like that.
The greatest thing that would have made my business better and probably made me more successful today is if I had more confidence, was even more aggressive. Because every single property that I talked myself out of that I didn't buy out of fear is worth a lot more money now. So we talk ourselves out of a lot of things. So I wish I was a bit more aggressive and had more confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that develop over time? It just happens. How would you do that going back
You
back in
know,
time?
you always have to keep pushing. So the question is, how
Right.
much do you push? So there's an expression, you get rich money and stay rich money. So once you start to make a lot of money, excuse me,
Sure.
you don't want to lose the money. So you start to get a little more careful. So if you have nothing to lose, you're very, very aggressive. So as you start becoming successful, you start to pull back a little bit. And the pullback was the part I wish I hadn't done. I wish I went full steam
Okay,
ahead.
I see that. Cool. Explain why you're so active on social media now, because, like you said, you're set already. What's the point with that?
I love teaching. I've really gotten addicted to teaching people, and I love your generation. I love meeting people in their 30s, 40s, even people older than me who want to get into real estate. I've been very, very blessed and lucky to find a career I love. So about a year and a half ago, these young guys from the School of Hard Knocks asked me to do an interview and a podcast, and I did it, and I really enjoyed it. And I was already having interns in my office and doing some other podcasts. But these guys said to me, the podcast went pretty viral. People liked you. You should do
Right.
some social media. And I said, I'm not going to have people follow me around with cameras. I'm not going to live like that. And they said, no, it's not like that. So it's really just like 2 days every 2 months. We spend a couple hours together and they film. And these guys handle my social media. They do everything for me. But it's been so rewarding to meet so many people at college campuses and everything and all over town that people come up to and they want to learn about real estate. And even because I wrote
Yeah.
the book, as I told you about, you're teaching people. So if someone like me at 52 who's bought a lot of properties can help someone like you at 21 just buy your first,
Hmm.
you'll be well on your way. So you get to a stage where giving back is very, very important. So the next level for me is I want to teach a course. I'm looking into some universities pretty close to home where I could actually teach a course on real estate too. And as you can imagine, there's not any compensation of any sort in that. Writing the book, as I told you, as I said, keeping it real in commercial real estate, all proceeds go to charity. But at 21, you should be greedy. You should be worried about yourself as best you can. And there's a very limited amount of people you can help underneath you. What I always recommend you young guys and girls do is go work with the 17-year-olds, the 16-year-olds that need to make the right decisions. But at my stage, teaching your generation how to get into real estate and invest is the greatest thing I could do. So
Yeah, that's
I
fun.
really enjoy
What
it.
was writing the book like? It's something different. Yeah, I can
Hard as
imagine.
hell. Hard as hell. And there was no chat GPT to help me. I wanted to write the book and I wrote the whole book and I had an editor to help me. And then they took the whole book and they put it together and they said, well, this was here and this should go here. And they sent it to me and I read it and the book was terrible. And I said, I don't like this book at all. So I actually bought a book
Okay.
on how to write a book and I read it and it said, you have to write the book as if you're writing it to someone. Who's your audience? So I thought of my intern sitting in my office here learning real estate. So I wrote the book. It's 200 pages, very general. And it teaches you all the different ways to invest in real estate. Whether you're going to own the properties, you're going to invest with other people, you want to buy publicly traded companies, you want to buy private placements. So it's every way to invest in every kind of real estate from multifamily, warehouse, industrial, self-storage on a very basic
Mm.
entry level point. And I did that. I told my story, how I got started, what I did, the reason why I did it. And I gave all the proceeds to charity because I never wanted people to say, well, if you're a real estate guy, why do you have to make money on a book? That's why I keep plugging the book shamelessly. I don't get anything out of it other than
That's
trying to
fine.
help.
Touch on how your investment strategy changed over time, initially and how it is now.
It never really changed. Well, in the real estate business, since I got started, it was always about finding properties that I could add value to, or I could correct a problem, and I could cash flow them from day one. I was never a developer where I wanted to take the risk of finding a piece of land and getting entitlements and permits and building. That's a lot of risk. So to me, it was always finding a property with a problem, a property with a problem, fixing it, generating more cash flow, refinancing it, getting my money back out, and going doing it again. So it's like they say, you're generous, rinse and repeat, so to speak. Just keep doing the
Mm-hmm.
same thing over and over, and I still do it today. The only difference is the
Yeah.
deals get
How
bigger.
do they get bigger? How do you get your deal flow? How does that work?
Well, deal flow has been very tough lately. There's been a big disconnect in the last 24 months between
Mm-hmm.
buyers, sellers, and lenders. So sellers have had the opinion that interest rates are at 3%. They want those sale prices off their properties, and interest rates are not at 3%. And buyers are saying, well, I can't buy a property at a 5 cap when debt's at 7. I'm going to lose money, so that's not going to make sense. So the market's been pretty frozen, at least in the United States, for a couple of years now, and very few deals have gotten done. I've been able to do a few small deals, but nothing
Okay,
of any
I heard that.
size.
I was talking to a UFC fighter the other day, and he touched on what it's like breaking another person. It's sort of an analogy for deal making. How do you know you get a good deal? Because I asked him, I'm like, when do you know you've broken a person? Like, what is it like when you have a good deal? How do you know that?
You know, I just made a post about this the other day. I tell people, don't search for the good and the great deals, search for the great properties. Because a lot of times, like I just bought a property 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and most people would drive by and be like, why would you
Mm-hmm.
buy that headache? I mean, it's got a lot of deferred maintenance. It's got property. The guy who owned it bought it in 1999, and I don't think he's done anything with it till today. So it has a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of issues. But then they hear the price and go, well, that sounds like a good deal you got. Yeah, but I have to do a lot of work. It's not like you just got a good deal. So I'm always looking for the best opportunity. So when I buy a property that I know I could add value to and I could fix a problem by beautifying the property, retenanting the property, and doing different things, that's when I know I got a good deal. But it doesn't mean I got a good deal on the price. It just means I got a good deal because I got a
The
good
price will
property.
take care of itself then.
I would much rather buy a great property
Okay,
than
that
get a
makes
great
sense.
price.
Good. I read Kiyosaki's book like 6 years ago, I believe. Explain to me
Great
once and
book.
for all, because I still don't really understand it. Why owning a house is a bad idea.
Ah, I'm very
I
famous
know.
for this one too. So uh, there's like, it's not that owning a house is bad per se. Owning a house is great. At 21, you should not own a house. But when you have a young family and you need stability, or you got married and you want to start like a family, owning a house is fine. The problem is people believe that their house is an investment and they actually have an asset. Your house is a liability because you have to go to work to support that house. And even if you own it with no mortgage because your parents gave you the money, you still have a liability because maybe it needs a roof, maybe it has plumbing problems. But the bigger issue is if you took the money you used to buy this house and you bought a commercial property, you could control your future. If you buy a house, if you buy a house, or in South Florida, we have a lot of condos, there's very little you could do to it to change the neighborhood. You could fix the house, you could make a nicer kitchen, you could make a nicer landscaping, but you can't change the school district. You're pretty limited on what you could do with it. But if you buy a commercial property, you could fix the property, you could go out and get better tenants, you could redo stuff where you could directly control it, and the tenants will pay you. So when the tenants are paying you rent, they're paying off your mortgage. You could then use that cash flow to rent. That's the better way of doing it. That's really what it is. Owning a house is not a bad idea, but it's no smarter than buying a toy car or having a boat.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are investments. Maybe they go up in price if you're lucky, but that's not an
Right.
investment
I agree.
strategy.
Okay, makes sense. Real quick on relationship building, because you mentioned that on the socials too. Keeping those relationships warm. How do you? What are your fundamentals for that?
Relationships are everything, and especially when you have clients. And I don't care what business you're in. If you have clients, it's very important you, so to speak, you touch them very often. And far too often, people don't reach out to their clients, and they're losing a lot of business by not doing that, especially real estate people, because their clients know people, they have friends, they need other things. So I'm in the commercial real estate business, and I always tell my leasing team that you need to reach out to everyone you lease to, because these people may know someone else wants to lease space. Most business owners know other business owners. They may want to expand. They may have an aunt who needs to sell her house, and we can even help them with that if one of these guys wants to do it. So you have to touch your clients as often as you can. You have to be really like systematic about it, and calendars will help you with this, but know important dates for them. Know when
Mm-hmm.
their birthdays are, and pick up the phone and wish them a happy birthday. Even if they don't answer the phone because they're very busy that day, they'll
Yeah.
know you reached out. If you know their daughter is getting married, send a little something. But that's what makes it personal. If you just think of your client as a transactional person, you're never going to develop them. So relationships are everything. And that goes for people you've never done business with before either. Offer to do a service, offer to do anything, and expect nothing in return. If I was 21 years old right now, 25 years old, 30 years old right now, and I was building my business, which, you're very young, but even if I was 31, still very young to build a business, I would offer everything I could for free just to get in with
Mm-hmm.
the right people. You see, because the most successful people in life know that people are always trying to sell them something, but they don't offer a good value in return. Offer the value and then see if they'll buy. So first build a relationship. Be willing to give away your time because you got plenty of time. Be willing to prove you could add value. And once you could prove to someone you could make them money, or you're a good asset to have in their corner, they'll
Good
hire
one.
you.
I like that. It's a good clip. We'll clip that out. That's great. I was researching you and I didn't even notice, but you're like a big star on Bravo. That's fun. How's
Ah.
Has that done like anything significant for your business? What's that like?
No, it's actually probably hurt. That's the truth. It's not been good. It doesn't align with who
Mm-hmm.
I am and my brand. And the Bravo shows. I think that most of the viewers, I won't say all, but I think most of the viewers know this stuff
Sure.
is scripted and fake, and it's for entertainment. The problem is people think that they really know you and you're this person, but they're editing out little pieces of you for theatrics to sell
Mm-hmm.
time on TV. They don't show the good; they show the drama. So it's actually hurt a bit in my business life because people meet you go, "Are you really like that? You really fight with people?" Like, no, it's for a TV show. So it's kind of like people take it a little too seriously when it's really not that serious. It's not really real life. So They take it too much. So I haven't really
Okay, no, I
enjoyed
see
that
that.
part.
What's it like though? Like getting into that whole like TV business?
It's a lot more than people think. It's a lot more than they think. It's like it's a big production to get cameras in there because it's not like shooting a social media guy shooting some video where one person walks with the camera. When Bravo, which is owned by NBC Universal, wants to film something, you got to get permits from the city. You got to bring insurance in. You got to have a crew of multiple people. These people all have to be part of the unions and stuff. So it's a big deal. I'll give you an example. They filmed a scene where we were looking for an apartment about a year ago, and people were like, "Oh, they're looking for an apartment," and this like what they don't understand is this is all staged. This doesn't happen by random. You're not getting all these people, and when they come to film, it takes them a couple of hours to set up between lighting. But the viewer thinks it's so easy, and it's not. It's a lot of
Yeah,
work goes
it's
on.
interesting though. It's fun business. It's something. Yeah.
It really is. But it's if you ever get the chance to see them filming these kind of things, it's really incredible to realize that you're mic'd up.
Mm,
There's booms over you with more microphones just in case. There's lights everywhere. There's not one cameraman. There's 20 cameramen, and they're not holding a little phone like this, like your friend may do when he's recording a social media video. The holding camera is the size of this big. I mean, they're huge, and these guys are walking around. I mean, so
yeah, no,
it's a
for
lot
sure.
going on.
I love it. Things
Yeah.
you're excited about right now, near future, things you're working on.
Things I'm excited about. Teaching more. I love to teach in real estate. I'm super excited watching my kids and all their friends grow up. My two daughters are in college now, a freshman and a sophomore in college. I love to see that generation grow and flourish. And I take a lot of credit for my kids, working hard and doing well. So I like to see that. Now that my kids are out of the house, traveling a lot more because I don't have the responsibility of getting them to school or dealing with them in school. They're out of the house, so I could travel a lot more and see more of the world. Keep growing my business. I think that next year is going to be a really good year for the real estate market. I don't expect interest rates to come down too far, but I think it'll come down to a point that sellers will get more realistic and realize this is back to the new normal and the days of free money are over. So I think there'll be more transactions going on. So I think I'll get more deals going. So that got a half marathon lined up for first weekend in February. I think it's the second, third, fourth, whatever that first Sunday is. So excited about that. So I guess I'm excited about a
Sounds
lot of
great.
things.
How fast are you running the half marathon? What's the goal?
I want to do the half marathon now in just sub 2 hours. That's about all the training time I have. So sub 2 hours. Even if it's 1:59:59, I'm okay.